I watched the cutscenes of Halo 3 at 0.25 speed, and this is what I noticed. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00 and this new series where I look at every cutscene from every Halo game at 0.25 speed and then talk about what I find. This new series' working title is the Cutscene Cartographer, and we're kicking this off with Halo 3.
They let me pick.
Ha! Gentella sounds drunk.
Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan I wanted. You know me. I did my research.
If you look closely, you can actually see the anodyne spirit within the fireball in MCC graphics. I don't remember seeing that back in the day on the 360 with a 720p monitor. Just lost detail in the lower fidelity technology of the time, I suppose.
Watched as you became the soldier we needed you to be. Like the others, you were strong and swift.
This distance is quite a bit larger than 2 kilometers. A Marine later on in the cutscene asks how far he fell and another replies 2 kilometers easy. Well, if that's in altitude, the mountain pictured here is seemingly Kilimanjaro. That mountain is some 5,800 meters tall, and while the location of the camera where it's positioned has been confirmed as being the Shira Peak, which stands at about 4,000 meters, there is no way that Chief's fireball emerges from the anodyne spirits only 200 meters above the highest peak of Kilimanjaro.
And brave.
It's more likely, given that we
Natural
can't
leader.
see the light being cast on the slopes of Kilimanjaro that are facing towards us from the ionizing atmosphere from the ship above, and that the ship itself measures 10 kilometers in length, meaning it is at least 100 or so kilometers behind the mountain. Add to this that we actually see the ship begin interacting with the upper atmosphere in this scene. That tends to only begin happening around 100 kilometers above sea level. Objects only cause ionization of the air around them at speeds in excess of Mach 20 or 6,860 meters per second. Chief's fireball remains a fireball for the entirety of its fall, meaning that for the 14 seconds of his visible fall from the ship, travelling at 6,860 meters per second, Chief fell a distance of just over 96 kilometers at an approach angle of 45 degrees at the steepest and 15 degrees at the shallowest, giving us an altitude of between 24 kilometers and 68 kilometers. But again, that's only if we apply the cold hard maths, and the rule of cool shone quite brightly here.
Something no one saw but me. Can you guess? Luck.
We're only a minute into this cutscene and we've already tackled all of that. Also, Cortana's dialogue here is in reference to when she was with Dr. Halsey on Reach and was given the choice of the Spartan she wanted to be paired with. She chose John out of all of the Spartans and then optimised her connection algorithms to match John's neural interface within 0.81%. All of that can be found in Halo: The Fall of Reach. The book, that is. Moving on.
Was I wrong?
No, you weren't wrong, he's a lucky son of a bitch.
This ain't good.
Chief's armour is locked into position. His hydrostatic gel layer had overpressurized to prevent injury from the impact. Oddly enough though, research shows that actually being relaxed during impact gives better odds of reducing injury than being tense or rigid. Although in this case it's the armour that's rigid. The Spartan inside may well be relaxed, but it doesn't negate the very real possibility of becoming human paste on the inside of his suit. Mjolnir must have some exotic sci-fi inertial dampening we just don't know about, which, for the record, is currently scientifically impossible, but let's keep going.
Damn. How far did he fall?
2 kilometers, easy.
We now know it's more than that.
Stay sharp.
Sergeant Johnson here is actually smoking a Sweet William cigar, which is a cigar favoured by officers of the UNSC. The Sweet William is actually a flower called Dianthus barbatus, and is a flowering plant native to southern Europe and parts of Asia. And in the Victorian language of flowers, the Sweet William symbolises gallantry, tying in nicely with their popularity with the UNSC officers, and likely being an inspiration as to the naming of the cigars in the lore, but also possibly due to their actual use as an ingredient in the cigars. Sweet William cigars are now for sale over at installation00.co.uk and can be shipped globally. You must be at least the minimum legal age to consume tobacco products within your country of origin in order to purchase. Just thought I'd throw that in there for good measure. Marty's composition of arrival here is fantastic, building over 2 major chords, then dropping into 3 minor chords, musically echoing the negative moments being portrayed on screen and building tension. Marines being ever vigilant around the chief because the Covenant are already in the area, the Marines are fully aware of it, and the brutes can smell humans from a distance.
Foreman?
His armor's locked up.
Also, this device that seemingly wirelessly connects to Chief's armor's diagnostics is fascinating. The X-ray view of Chief's head is a nice touch, but I would expect purely for aesthetic reasons, unless they've managed to massively scale down X-ray machines and allow it to actually take an X-ray of a human head through titanium. I would imagine it's probably just for the purposes of illustration.
Gel layer could have taken most of the impact. I don't know, Sergeant Major.
The Corpsman being able to deactivate Chief's armor lock from this alongside reading other diagnostic information was evidently considered a security risk in future platforms, as Chief's new Gen 3 suit only grants access to his suit systems if he allows it. That was covered quite extensively in the Ghosts of Reach. Johnson feeling Chief's chest armour for the rise and fall of his breathing isn't a surefire way to ascertain if he's alive. I mean, the armour is solid titanium and Chief is likely unconscious, meaning that he's going to be breathing more shallowly. Shallowly? Breathing more shallow. It would basically be impossible to ascertain whether or not he was breathing in this state through multiple layers of armour. Johnson was evidently briefed about removing Cortana's data chip, likely harkening back to him being alongside Chief in many of his escapades on Installation 04 in Halo CE, and one of the main directives of that entire campaign being to keep Cortana out of the hands of the enemy, but also narratively and lore-wise enforced by the Cole Protocol. The capture of a shipborne AI is absolutely unacceptable because they contain essential information about the location of many of Earth's colonies, which would then lead the Covenant to Earth's colonies and allow them to be glassed. Denying the enemy this information at least slows their progress somewhat.
Radio for Vital. Heavy lift gear. We're not leaving them here.
VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing with heavy lift gear. Chief is 500 kilograms of Spartan and the area is basically inaccessible to a Pelican. Makes sense given that they assume that he's dead, that they do everything to extract him from the area so that the Covenant don't get their hands on the Mjolnir-powered assault armor. Again, something that Mjolnir itself has a safeguard system built into it in order to avoid. With the right authorization code, Mjolnir's fusion packs go critical and basically detonate, destroying everything nearby, including the suit itself and its occupant.
Yeah, you're not.
Crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna...
Even now I still get chills. The music swelling to a major chord, aspiring to hope and the revival of the Chief, a near mythological figurehead in the war at this point.
land on something as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces. Where is she, Chief? Where's Cortana?
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
Ah yes, the first hologram of Cortana interrupting things. We'll get to that later. We've got to have something to talk about during Crow's Nest.
She stayed behind.
Corporal, make it quick.
Sorry, sir. Your armor's still in partial lockdown. Look up here, sir. Okay. Now down here? Good. Everything checks out, Sergeant Major.
Kick off the training wheels, Corporal. He's good to go.
Now this is a particularly fascinating moment, and actually the moment that inspired me to make this series. Chief hears movement as a Marine walks into view. Now this moment is a moment that Chief tenses in response to the Arbiter in active camo. Obviously the last time that he saw the Arbiter, they were enemies. And as far as the Chief is concerned, the elites are still enemies. You have to bear in mind here, an elite in active camouflage is basically invisible to the human eye. There is a tiny shimmer in the air from the device's latency processing the bending of light around the object, but at slow moving speeds like a walk, it's basically unnoticeable. The effect is exaggerated, one, because it's a game and it would be unfair if they were completely and utterly invisible, and two, you are a Spartan after all. And right here it's being demonstrated. Chief's enhanced senses and reflexes allow him to pick out the very, very slight aberration in the active camo processing module. And not only this, manages to pick that out in a jungle where basically everything is moving. You try picking out a well-hidden sniper in a ghillie suit in a f***ing field. It's basically impossible, and yet Chief picks out a tiny optical aberration shimmer in the air in a jungle filled with movement and instinctively knows what it is, and ultimately begins to react to it before anyone else is even any the wiser.
Feet, wait!
And then the reaction itself. In 6 steps, Chief covers 15 feet between him and the Arbiter, barges past the corpsman, pushes Johnson clear, who somehow manages to keep his cigar in his face, relieves Johnson of his service pistol from his belt, pushes the new Marine aside to protect him from the threat with his own body, and then shoves the muzzle of the pistol into the Arbiter's mouth. 2.5 seconds is all it took.
Feet, wait! The Arbiter's with us! Come on now. We've got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill each other.
Were it so easy.
And just for the sakes of it, Johnson's differing dialogues depending on the difficulty level of the game.
We must go. The brutes have our scent.
Then they must love the smell of green. Then they must love the smell of hero. Then they must love the smell of badass. Then they must love the scent of a real man. They must love the smell of Bulgari. Yeah, I'm doing a little product placement. I gotta get paid too. Then they must love the scent of testosterone. Then they must love the smell of badass. And I left a little present for you, Arbiter, and I'm walking away. Ha ha ha!
That last one was definitely an outtake from David Sully in the recording booth.
See how they bait their trap? I will help you spring it.
Obviously only a quick note here, but the way in which the Arbiter speaks about the brutes beating their trapped. Obviously trapped soldiers are no longer a threat, so there's no real reason to beat them. Particularly because at this stage, they're not trying to get any information out of their trapped Marines. It's basically the Arbiter reiterating how dishonourable the brutes are in the way in which they treat their prisoners, as opposed to the way in which the elites treated their prisoners, but that's not necessarily coming from a place of sincerity, given that most of the Covenant military was under the direct instruction of the elites on the front lines, and of the few human prisoners that were taken, they were tortured mercilessly. So take from that what you will.
IFF confirmed. Contact is Pelican dropship, Kilo 23, over.
Roger that. What's the word, Kilo 23? Sierra 117 on board. Request priority clearance, over.
And in this final little cutscene, the fist bump between the two Marines when they realise that Spartan 117 is on board the Pelican. Again, Chief's almost mythological at this stage. He's a legend across human-controlled space. So knowing that he's there and he's okay bolsters the morale of the forces nearby.
Deck's yours. Come on down.
And that puts a nice end to our first episode of the cutscene Cartographer. There's a little part of me that wants to do these in chronological order, so do Halo 3's cutscenes, then do another game's cutscenes, and do them all in order and release them episodically, but in the same breath, I kind of want to know what cutscenes you want me to cover. Because ultimately, if all of you guys have an opinion on what cutscene I should cover next and give this kind of a treatment to it, then it makes sense to do that because, well, you guys are going to watch it. So, let me know in the comments down below what cutscene you'd like me to look at next, or if you'd just like me to do it in chronological order, and until next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider smashing the like button and leave a comment below on what you'd like me to cover next. Big shout out to my patrons Spartan10148, the metarch of my installation, Falcon, Prophet Bear, Mikhail, Sophia, and Ashley, my dutiful monitors, Darian, Scarab, Spartan0137, Anthony, Ghost, Aaron, Chris, Jacob, Sean, Element Zero, Somatic, Jordan J3, Dan, Mr. Keys, Directal, Gunslinger, Jacob, Bandmill, Echo, Evermore, Officer Cat, and Personal Devil, my diligent sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, and my loyal enforcers. And all the other patrons who have jumped aboard to support the channel. It means more to me than I can accurately put into words. Another shout out to my Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members, Spartan137, Jacob, Schmitty, Talia, Fenrir and Born Stella, and all the other YouTube members keeping my installation running on that glorious vacuum energy. Shout out to John for I don't fucking know. And if you want more of this kind of content, hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you don't miss any future videos, and consider jumping aboard yourself as a patron or YouTube member to keep the channel alive and kicking. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.